I should have trusted my gut when the realtor said the previous owners relocated suddenly. But the price was too good, and in this market, you don't ask questions when you find a 3-bedroom under budget. My wife Sarah and I had been looking for months, and this place on Maple Street seemed perfect. Quiet neighborhood, good schools, mature trees lining the street like sentinels. The neighbor introduced himself before we'd even finished unloading the truck. "Welcome to the neighborhood," he said, appearing at our fence line like he'd been waiting. Mid-50s, polo shirt tucked into khakis, smile that showed too many teeth. "I'm Gary. Live right there." He pointed to the house next door, identical to ours except for the color. Beige where ours was blue. "Nice to meet you," I said, setting down a box to shake his hand. His grip was firm, held a second too long. "You folks got kids?" His eyes scanned our boxes, lingering on the ones marked Emma's room. "A daughter. She's 7. Wonderful age." That smile again. "My wife and I never had any. One of life's disappointments." Sarah appeared beside me, and I introduced them. Gary's demeanor shifted slightly, more formal, less friendly. He excused himself after a few pleasantries, but I caught him watching from his window as we continued unpacking. That night, Sarah mentioned it first. "Did you notice all the cameras?" I hadn't, but now I looked. Gary's house bristled with them, every corner, every approach, even facing our property. "Guy likes his security," I said, though something about it bothered me. "There's one pointed right at Emma's window." I looked where she pointed. She was right. The angle was too precise to be coincidental. The first few weeks passed normally. Gary waved when he saw us, kept his lawn immaculate, retrieved our mail when it ended up in his box. The perfect neighbor, except for the watching. Always at his window when Emma played outside. Always in his yard when we were in ours. "Maybe he's just lonely," Sarah said, but she started closing the curtains earlier each evening. Then came the gifts. Small things at first, a toy left on our porch for Emma, cookies for us. No note, but we knew. The toys were always things Emma had mentioned wanting, things we'd discussed only inside our house. When I thanked Gary, he'd smile that too wide smile and say he just had a feeling she'd like it. I installed our own security camera, telling Sarah it was for package thieves. But we both knew. The footage was normal for weeks. Gary checking his mail, walking his property line, normal neighbor stuff. Until I scrolled back further, to times we weren't home. Gary at our back door, trying the handle. Gary at Emma's window, standing there for minutes at a time. Gary in our backyard at 3 a.m., just standing, staring at our house. "We called the police," Sarah said, her voice shaking. But when Officer Martinez came by, Gary had answers for everything. The back door? He'd seen it swinging open, wanted to make sure we were okay. Emma's window? Bird watching. There was a rare woodpecker that nested in our oak tree. The 3 a.m. visits? Insomnia and doctor-recommended walks. "Without proof of intent to harm or actual trespass, there's not much we can do," Martinez said. "Maybe try talking to him, setting some boundaries." That night, our Wi-Fi went down. The cable company said the line had been cut. Clean slice, deliberate. While waiting for repairs, I used my phone's hotspot and decided to search Gary's name. What I found made my blood cold. 3 addresses in 5 years. Always next to families with young daughters. Always leaving suddenly, no forwarding address. I dug deeper, found a newspaper archive from 2 states over. A house fire. A family of 3, daughter aged 7. The only survivor, their next-door neighbor, who tried heroically to save them. The neighbor's name was Gary. Asterisk what happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how it unfolded. Asterisk. I showed Sarah the articles that night after Emma was asleep. Her face went white as she read. "We're leaving," she said. "Tonight. We can't just. I don't care about the mortgage. I don't care about any of it." Her hands shook as she pulled out suitcases. "That little girl in the fire, she was 7. Emma's age." I wanted to argue, to say we were overreacting, but then I heard it. Footsteps on our porch. Slow, deliberate. The doorbell rang. We froze. It rang again. Then knock. 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 Don't answer it, Sarah whispered. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know you're home. Another buzz. A photo. Our living room, taken from outside. We were both in frame, Sarah holding the suitcase, me looking at my phone. The timestamp was 10 seconds ago. I called 911, but the call wouldn't connect. No signal. Sarah tried hers, same thing. The knocking stopped. Silence stretched between us like a held breath. Then Emma's voice from upstairs. Mommy? There's a man at my window. We ran. I've never moved so fast in my life, taking the stairs 3 at a time. Emma stood in her pajamas, pointing at her window. The curtains were closed, but there was a shadow on the other side. Just standing there. I grabbed Emma while Sarah called 911 from the landline in our bedroom. This time it worked. They're on their way, she said. The shadow at the window didn't move. Didn't leave. Just waited. Then the power went out. In the darkness, I heard the front door open. We always locked it. I knew we'd locked it. He has keys, Sarah breathed. Oh God, he has keys. Footsteps downstairs. Slow. Patient. I grabbed the baseball bat from our closet, pushed Sarah and Emma into our bathroom. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me or the police. Don't go out there. I have to. I crept into the hallway. The footsteps had stopped. Silence again, but the wrong kind. The kind where someone's listening just as hard as you are. A floorboard creaked behind me. Hello, neighbor. I spun. Gary stood at the other end of the hall, barely visible in the darkness. Something glinted in his hand. Your family's lovely, he said. Reminds me of the Mitchells. They lived in your house before. Lovely people. Tragic, what happened? The police are coming. Are they? He took a step closer. Funny thing about 911 calls. Sometimes they go to the wrong address. Sometimes the caller says it was a mistake. Sometimes. Red and blue lights flooded through the windows. Real ones. Gary's face twitched, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from him. Rage. This isn't over, he said, and then he was gone, moving faster than a man his age should. I heard the back door slam. The police found him in his house, calmly making tea. The knife was gone. He claimed I'd invited him over, that we'd had an argument about property lines. Without evidence of breaking and entering, no forced entry, no proof he'd been inside, they could only issue a warning. We stayed in a hotel that night. The next day, while packing with a moving crew, I found them. Tiny cameras everywhere. In the smoke detectors, the vents, inside Emma's stuffed animals. How long had they been there? Since before we moved in? The previous owners, the Mitchells, I tracked them down. They were using different names now, living 3 states away. When I mentioned Gary, the wife started crying. He had keys, she said. We changed the locks twice. He always had keys. And the cameras, we found them too late. After he'd already. She stopped. Just get out. Get your family out. Asterisk, this is the climax. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Stay to see the hero put everyone in their place. Asterisk. We left that afternoon. Drove to Sarah's sister's house 2 hours away, planning our next move. I thought we were safe. I thought we'd escaped. But that night, Sarah showed me her phone. A notification from our bank. Our accounts had been flagged for suspicious activity. Someone had tried to drain them. Then Emma's school called. Someone had requested her records be transferred. We hadn't made that request. He's not going to stop, Sarah said. He knows where Emma's school is. Where my sister lives. He probably knows. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered it. You can't run from a neighbor. Gary's voice was calm, pleasant. Neighbors look out for each other. They know everything about each other. Your routines. Your passwords. Your fears. What do you want? I had plans for your family. Beautiful plans. The Mitchells left too soon. But you were going to be perfect. Leave us alone. Did you know your daughter likes to sing in her sleep? Twinkle, twinkle, little star. She sang it last night at exactly 2:47 a.m. My blood froze. We'd been at Sarah's sister's. How could he? I particularly enjoyed the verse about wondering what you are. I wonder that about people all the time. What they really are underneath. I hung up. Called the police. But what could I say? A man called me? Made vague threats? They took a report, said they'd increase patrols. That night I couldn't sleep. Every noise was him. Every shadow. At 2:47 a.m. I heard it. Soft, drifting from Emma's room. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. But Emma wasn't singing. The voice was coming from under her bed. I burst in, bat in hand, ready to fight. But there was nothing there. Just a small speaker, barely visible in the darkness. How? When? We moved again. Further this time. Changed our names. Deleted social media. Told no one where we were going. For 3 months, nothing. We started to breathe again. Emma started school under her new name. Sarah found a job. I worked from home, always watching. Always ready. Then I saw him. Not Gary. But a man who looked at Emma the same way. Who appeared at the playground when she played. Who knew her new name without being told. I confronted him. He smiled that same two-eyed smile. Gary says hello, he said. He misses his neighbors. That's when I understood. It wasn't just Gary. It was never just Gary. We ran again. Are still running. I write this from another hotel, another city. Emma's asleep beside me, Sarah keeping watch at the window. I don't know if it will ever end. Don't know if we'll ever stop looking over our shoulders. But I know this, somewhere out there, Gary is making friends with new neighbors. Showing that wide smile. Installing his cameras. Finding his keys. And somewhere else, in a house that looks perfectly normal on a street that seems perfectly safe, another family is unpacking boxes. Meeting their neighbor. Thinking what a nice man he seems. Wondering why the previous owners relocated so suddenly. Wondering why there are so many cameras. Wondering why their daughter's window faces his house so perfectly. They should run. They should run now. But they won't. Because that's not what good neighbors do. And by the time they understand what kind of neighbor they really have, it will be too late. It's always too late. I check Emma one more time. Still sleeping. Still safe. For now. My phone buzzes. Unknown number. I don't answer anymore, but the messages come anyway. Neighbors are forever. This one says. See you soon. I used to think the scariest sound was footsteps in the dark. Now I know it's the doorbell ringing. And the voice that says, "Welcome to the neighborhood." The first time I heard the sound, I was lying in bed at 3 a.m., unable to sleep in our new house. A soft scratching, like mice in the walls. Except it was too rhythmic. Too deliberate. Like someone writing. My wife Melissa didn't hear it. She never did. Said I was stressed from the move, that old houses make weird noises. But this wasn't an old house. The whole neighborhood was only 5 years old, built by a local developer who still lived on the corner lot. Harold Brennan. Quiet man, late 60s, always wore the same faded construction vest even though he'd long since retired. We'd gotten such a deal on the place. Harold gives special prices to young families. Our realtor had gushed. He built every house on this street himself. Says he likes knowing good people are living in his creations. That should have been my first warning. The scratching continued for weeks. Always between 3 and 4 a.m. Always in the walls. I'd press my ear against the drywall, trying to locate it, but it seemed to move. Living room one night. Kitchen the next. Like something traveling through the bones of the house. Then I found the first one. I was installing a new outlet in our daughter Amy's room when my stud finder went crazy. The wall that should have been hollow wasn't. There was something metallic behind the drywall, right where her bed would go. I cut a small hole, just to see. Behind the insulation was a lens. A tiny camera lens. My hands shook as I expanded the hole. The camera was professional grade, wired directly into the house's electrical system. It had been there since construction. Don't tell Melissa yet, I decided. She was already anxious about the move, and Amy was having trouble adjusting to kindergarten. I'd investigate first. Get evidence. Figure out what the hell was happening. I spent the next week discreetly checking walls. Found 17 more cameras. Living room. Bathrooms. Every bedroom. All hardwired, all recording to somewhere. The wires disappeared into the foundation. That's when I met Linda Vance, my neighbor from 2 houses down. She was walking her dog past our yard when she stopped. "You're checking the walls?" she said. It wasn't a question. What? We all did, when we first moved in. Found the cameras. Made a fuss. She glanced toward Harold's house. Nothing came of it. Police said without proof they were active, without knowing where they transmitted to, there was no crime. Just weird construction choices. That's insane. Is it? She lowered her voice. The Johnsons moved out last year. Middle of the night. Left half their stuff. The Carters before them. Same thing. But new families always move in. Always such good deals. Always young couples with children. My stomach turned. How long have you lived here? 3 years. Longest of anyone except Harold. Her laugh was bitter. My husband thinks I'm paranoid. Says I spend too much time online reading conspiracy theories. But I know what I feel. This whole neighborhood is wrong. She walked away before I could ask more. That night, the scratching was louder. Closer. I followed it to the basement, where it seemed to come from behind the concrete wall. I ran my hands along the surface until I found it, a seam, painted over but definitely there. A hidden panel. It took an hour with a crowbar to pry it open. Behind it was a narrow tunnel. Concrete walls, professional construction. A string of LED lights ran along the ceiling, disappearing into darkness. I should have called the police then. Should have grabbed my family and left. But I had to know. The tunnel was just tall enough to stand in, just wide enough for one person. It smelled of earth and something else, old paper and ink. I followed it 50 feet before it branched. Left toward the Vances house. Right toward another neighbor. Straight ahead toward. I counted houses in my head. Harold's. I went straight. The tunnel opened into a room. Concrete walls lined with monitors. Dozens of them, all dark except for a few showing grainy night vision footage. A desk covered in notebooks. Hundreds of them, dating back years, each labeled with an address and family name. I opened one at random. The Carters. Pages and pages of observations, written in cramped handwriting. Daily routines. Conversations. Personal details no neighbor should know. Mrs. Carter cried again today while doing dishes. Their son asked why Daddy doesn't come home anymore. Marital relations resumed after 2-week pause. Another notebook. The Johnsons. Same obsessive detail. Same violations of privacy. Then I found ours. Only a few weeks of entries so far, but already he knew everything. What time we showered. What we watched on TV. What we talked about when we thought we were alone. There was a section about Amy that made my skin crawl. Her favorite toys. Her bedtime stories. How she looked when she slept. Asterisk what happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how it unfolded. Asterisk. The scratching sound came from behind me. I spun around to find Harold standing in the tunnel entrance, holding a notebook and pen. You're up late, he said, like we'd bumped into each other at the grocery store. What is this? My voice cracked. What the hell is this? My life's work. He moved into the room with surprising grace for his age. 30 years of construction, and I finally figured it out. The perfect neighborhood. The perfect observation environment. You're sick. Am I? He set down his notebook, picked up another. Do you know what I've learned, watching all of you? How similar you all are. How predictable. The same fights. The same secrets. The same slow decay of happiness. It's fascinating. You can't. This is illegal. The cameras, the tunnels. I built this neighborhood to code. Every permit filed. The tunnels? Utility access, all documented. The cameras? Security system, disclosed in the fine print of your closing documents. Deactivated, of course. His smile was thin. Officially. I'm calling the police. With what phone? The cell tower's been down for maintenance all night. Happens sometimes. And your landline, well, these old wires can be unreliable. I rushed him. I'm not proud of it, but I wanted to hurt him. Needed to. But he was ready, stepping aside as I stumbled past. When I turned, he was holding something. A remote. Every house has contingencies, he said. Gas leaks. Electrical fires. So many accidents can happen in a home. He pressed a button. Somewhere above us, I heard a beep. That's your carbon monoxide detector. Faulty unit. Happens all the time. Whole family's gone before anyone notices. You're bluffing. The Johnsons thought so too. They left just in time. The Carters weren't so lucky. Check the news archives. Gas leak. Tragic. Another thin smile. I'm not a monster. I give people choices. Leave quietly, tonight, and never speak of this. Or stay and become another sad story. Another chapter in my book. Book? He gestured to the notebooks. 20 years of observations. The decay of suburban America, documented one family at a time. Publishers are very interested. Names changed, of course. Locations obscured. But the stories are all true. I thought of Melissa asleep upstairs. Of Amy, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Of all the families who'd lived here before us. Why? I asked. Because I can. Because I built these houses with my own hands, and they're mine in ways you'll never understand. Because people fascinate me, especially when they don't know they're being watched. The truth of them. The small cruelties and private shames. You're insane. No. I'm an artist. And you're trespassing. He checked his watch. You have 1 hour to decide. Leave or stay. But if you stay, you become part of the project. Permanently. I ran. Through the tunnel, up into my basement, up the stairs. I woke Melissa, grabbed Amy. Threw whatever I could into the car. What's happening? Melissa kept asking. What's wrong? Just drive, I said. I'll explain everything. Just drive. We left with nothing but pajamas and confusion. Behind us, every light in Harold's house was on. I imagined him in his underground room, writing it all down. Another family fled. Another chapter complete. We stayed in a motel that night. I told Melissa everything. She didn't believe me at first. Who would? But when I showed her the photos I'd taken of the tunnel, the monitors, the notebooks, her face went white. We're going to the FBI, she said. This is... But we didn't. Because the next morning, our house was gone. Not burned. Not destroyed. Gone. The lot was empty, like it had never been built. The neighbors' houses pressed closer together, filling the space. When we drove back, confused and terrified, the other residents looked at us blankly. No, there had never been a house there. The Brennan development only had 12 homes, not 13. Always had. Harold was on his porch, watching. He waved. Asterisk, this is the climax. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Stay to see the hero put everyone in their place. Asterisk. We tried everything. County records showed no deed in our name. Our mortgage company had no record of our loan. Our moving company had never heard of us. Even our mail forwarding was cancelled. It was like we'd never lived there at all. But I had the photos on my phone. Proof. Until I didn't. They corrupted one by one, pixels dissolving into static. This is impossible, Melissa said. We were in our third motel, paying cash, afraid to use credit cards. Houses don't just disappear. Records don't just vanish. But they do when the man who built the neighborhood has 30 years of connections. When he knows every inspector, every clerk, every official. When he's smart enough to build his perfect watching ground with contingencies for everything. We hired a private investigator. He found nothing. The FBI agent we spoke to looked at us like we were crazy. And maybe we were. Maybe we'd imagined it all. Maybe there had never been a house. Except Amy remembered. When are we going home? She'd ask. I miss my pink room. There had been a pink room. We hadn't imagined that. 3 months later, I couldn't stand it anymore. I drove back alone, parked outside the neighborhood. It looked so normal. Families walking dogs. Kids playing. Perfect suburban life. Harold's house was dark, but I knew he was there. Watching. Always watching. I broke in. Not smart, but I was past caring. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. He was expecting me. The living room was normal. Kitchen normal. But the basement door was open, waiting. I descended. The tunnel system was larger than I'd realized. Not just connecting houses, it was a maze beneath the entire neighborhood. And the rooms, there were dozens. Each filled with monitors, notebooks, recordings. 30 years of violated privacy. Thousands of lives documented without consent. In the center room, the largest, Harold sat writing. The walls were covered in photographs. Families who'd lived here. Families who'd fled. Families who'd not fled. I wondered when you'd return, he said without looking up. They always do. The ones who can't let go. Those people. What happened to them? Read the books when they're published. Fiction, of course. But the best fiction comes from truth. You killed them. I observed them. What they did to themselves, to each other, that's not my fault. I just watched. Documented. Preserved their stories. And our house? Being rebuilt on lot 15. New family moves in next month. Young couple, infant daughter. They'll love the extra soundproofing I'm installing. He finally looked up. You could have stayed quiet. Lived your life. But you had to dig. Had to know. And now. Now what? Now you're part of a different chapter. The one about the man who couldn't let go. Who came back. Who disappeared. He returned to his writing. The police will find your car abandoned. Your family will say you've been acting strange since the move. Trauma, they'll call it. Another sad story. Another tragedy. You're not going to get away with this. I've gotten away with it for 30 years. He kept writing, pen scratching against paper. That sound. That awful sound I'd heard in my walls. The development is expanding, you know. Phase 3 breaks ground next year. 20 more houses. 20 more families. 20 more stories. I grabbed the nearest notebook, threw it at him. He didn't flinch. Just kept writing. Linda Vance knows, I said. She's suspicious. Others must be too. Linda Vance moved away 2 weeks ago. Suddenly. Her husband got a job offer he couldn't refuse. Still writing. The new family seems lovely. 3 children. Very photogenic. The scratching of his pen filled the silence. Writing. Always writing. I wondered if he was documenting this conversation. If I was already becoming another chapter. I left. What else could I do? He was right. Who would believe me? A house that disappeared? Tunnels full of cameras? A man writing down the secrets of an entire neighborhood? But I couldn't let it go. I've spent months researching, planning. I found others like me. Former residents with similar stories. Fragments of truth buried in property records, construction permits, old news stories about gas leaks and house fires and families that vanished. We're building a case. Slowly. Carefully. Because Harold is old, but he's not alone. There are others. Contractors. Inspectors. People who help maintain his perfect watching ground. People who read his notebooks and want their own chapters. Sometimes I drive by the neighborhood. It looks so perfect. So normal. New families moving in, children playing, lives being lived. None of them knowing about the tunnels beneath their feet. The cameras in their walls. The man on the corner who sees everything, documents everything, owns everything in ways they'll never understand. His book comes out next year. The Architecture of American Dreams. Fiction, of course. Stories about families in a neighborhood that could be anywhere. Early reviews call it disturbingly authentic and too real for comfort. He sent me an advance copy. No note, just the book. I found our chapter. Names changed, details shifted, but it's us. Our fights. Our fears. Our daughter's nightmares. All of it there in black and white. The dedication reads, "To those who dug too deep. Your stories live forever." I've moved my family 17 times now. Different states, different names. But sometimes, late at night, I hear it. That scratching sound. Like someone writing. And I wonder if we ever really left. If anyone ever really leaves. Or if Harold is still watching, still writing, adding new chapters to stories that never end. The neighborhood is expanding. Check your walls. Check your deed. Check the name of the man who built your home. And if you hear scratching in the walls at 3 a.m., don't investigate. Just run. Some stories are better left unwritten. I found the photograph behind my medicine cabinet. A woman I didn't recognize sitting in my kitchen, wearing my robe. The timestamp showed 3 months before I'd moved in. My hands trembled. Same kitchen, same coffee maker, but a complete stranger with dark hair and tired eyes. Fresh photo paper, recently printed. I should have thrown it away. Instead, I tucked it in my desk drawer. 2 weeks later, I met Arthur. He was fixing a window next door, 70s maybe, with watery blue eyes that looked through you. "You must be the new tenant. 3B, right?" "I'm Arthur, 3C. "Sarah," I said. "From the Midwest? Teaching position at the university?" I hadn't told him that. Good memory. He smiled. "Oh, I never forget anything." Arthur became omnipresent. Always in the hallway. Always knocking, borrowed sugar, misdelivered packages. The perfect neighbor. But things kept appearing. A grocery receipt from stores I'd never visited. A child's drawing labeled, "Mommy and Me," in unfamiliar handwriting. Then the second photograph, same woman, but thinner, hollow-eyed, standing in my living room 1 month before I moved in. That night, I heard Arthur's TV through the wall. Home videos. A woman's voice. "Tommy, blow out the candles." Cut. Rewind. Playing the same moment over and over. Mrs. Chin in 3A had lived here 15 years. Rebecca? Lovely girl. Moved out suddenly, middle of the night. Looked terrified those last weeks. Dark hair? About my height? No, dear. Rebecca was blonde. Petite. The woman in the photographs wasn't Rebecca. Arthur knocked that evening with a casserole. I let him in, refusing felt dangerous. He paused at my bookshelf. Rebecca had many of the same books. Charlotte before her, too. Charlotte? 3B has quite a history. 12 tenants in 15 years. All young women. All left suddenly. He touched my journal. I snatched it back. That's private. Privacy is illusion in a building this old. We all hear each other's lives. After he left, I searched everywhere. Found 14 photographs. Different women. All in my apartment. All with that hollow look. In the closet, hidden in a shoebox, a brass key. Asterisk, what happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how it unfolded. Asterisk. The key fit Arthur's door. His apartment was covered in photographs. Thousands tacked to walls like scales. All candid shots of people in their private moments. The far wall was a timeline focused on apartment 3B. Going back years. Rebecca blonde, as Mrs. Chen said. Her transformation from vibrant to terrified, final photos showing her packing at 3 a.m. Before her, Charlotte. Before Charlotte, Maria. 12 women who'd fled. At the timeline's end, dozens of photos of me. Through windows. In hallways. One from inside my apartment, angled from my closet where I'd found the key. He'd been inside while I slept. His darkroom held chemicals and equipment worth thousands. But the filing cabinets revealed his true obsession. Not just photos, diary entries, shopping lists, hair samples, voice recordings. For every woman in 3B, entire dossiers. One drawer had my name. Already half full. A cassette from my first week. My voice. The apartment's perfect, Mom. I finally feel safe here. Arthur's whisper. She feels safe. Then my voice spliced wrong. I love living here. Never want to leave. Hours of recordings. Me singing, crying, talking in my sleep. At the bottom, a manuscript. The Women of 3B, A Study in Solitude, by Arthur Hemlock. Obsessive Psychological Profiles. The final chapter was blank except for Sarah, the last tenant. I've been waiting for you to find the key, Arthur said behind me. They all do. It's part of the pattern. You're sick. I'm a documentarian. Every woman who's lived in 3B has sat where you're sitting. Had this conversation. I'm calling the police. He held up my phone. Besides, what crime? Photography isn't illegal. Being interested in neighbors isn't illegal. Breaking into my apartment. Your landlord gave me a key for emergencies. Everyone knows helpful, harmless Arthur. Why 3B? The acoustics. I can hear everything from my bedroom. Every word. Every breath. Like living inside someone else's life. The women before me. Left when they found out. Like you'll leave. Tonight, probably. You'll tell yourself you'll go to police, but you won't. Because you know how this looks. He pulled out a notebook, writing. Subject displays expected fear response. Classic fight or flight indicators. I ran. Asterisk, this is the climax. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Stay to see the hero put everyone in their place. Asterisk. I slammed my door, turned the deadbolt. Then remembered, he had a key. I started packing frantically. The lights went out. Just my apartment. Footsteps in my bedroom. I know you're listening. Arthur's voice drifted from darkness. They always listen. Even after they leave. They wonder what I'm doing. If I'm still watching. I pressed against the front door. The chain was on, but he was already inside. Memory is all we are. Collections of moments. That's what I preserve. Who you really were. His footsteps moved closer. Rebecca called me a thief. But I gave her immortality. Every moment catalogued. When she's old, who will remember the woman she was at 32? Only me. The door wouldn't budge. Something jammed it from outside. You're special, Sarah. The last one. 3B becomes storage after you. 12 stories ending with yours. I ran to the bathroom, locked the door. Locks are illusions, he said against the door. Like privacy. Like safety. A photograph slid underneath. Me asleep last night. I already have everything. Your story preserved forever. You can leave. But you'll always wonder, what did I capture? What moments are mine forever? Another photo. Me in the shower this morning. In 20 years, you'll remember, somewhere, an old man has pieces of you. And you'll wonder if I'm still alive. Still looking. A third photo. Me right now, pressed against the bathroom door, taken from inside the bathroom. I screamed. The photo was impossible. A note. Check the mirror. Behind it, a tiny hole. Fiber optic cable. He'd been watching from inside the walls. I ran out. Mrs. Chen stood in the hallway. Sarah? What's wrong? Arthur, he's been watching. Arthur? There's no Arthur in 3C. It's been empty for months. Old man. White hair. You must have seen him. Sarah, are you feeling all right? I used the key on 3C. Empty. Gutted. Walls torn to studs. But in the dust, fresh footprints. In the corner, a cassette player. Still warm. The tape spliced our conversation into something that sounded like we were working together. Mrs. Chen backed away. I'm calling the police. I fled. 3 months ago. I've searched for Arthur Hemlock. No records. Nothing. The landlord confirmed 3C was empty, under renovation. But last week, on an Urban Explorer forum, someone posted about finding a room in an abandoned building. Walls covered in photographs of one apartment building. My building. The post was deleted, but I saw one photo. A timeline. 12 women's stories. At the end, a 13th section. Blank. Waiting. The username, ahemlock_memories. Profile bio. Memory is all we are. I check nightly. Obsessively. Waiting for him to reveal where he's keeping our stolen lives. I've become what he wanted. Someone who can't forget. Who knows that somewhere, my most private moments are preserved forever. Owned by someone else. Sometimes I catch myself documenting strangers. Taking photos. Recording. As if by doing it myself, I can understand. But I can't. Because Arthur was right. I'll always wonder. And wondering is just another kind of haunting. The Harpers moved in on a Tuesday. I remember because that's trash day, and I was dragging bins to the curb when their moving truck pulled up. Perfect family, mother, father, twin boys about 7. They waved like people do in commercials, all synchronized smiles and practiced gestures. Welcome to Willowbrook, I called out, and the father, Todd, I'd later learn, jogged over with his hand extended. Thanks so much. I'm Todd Harper. That's my wife Jennifer, and the boys are Mason and Marcus. His handshake was firm, normal. Everything about them seemed normal. We're so excited to be here. The boys have been counting down the days. That should have been my first clue. What 7-year-old counts down days to move to a new town? Jennifer appeared beside him, carrying a casserole dish. I made too much lasagna last night. Would you mind taking this off our hands? I know it's usually the neighbors who bring food, but... She laughed, a tinkling sound like wine glasses clinking. I took the dish. Still warm. That's so thoughtful. I'm David, by the way. My wife Rachel and daughter Emma are inside. Emma, Jennifer repeated, tilting her head. How old? 8. Perfect. The boys need friends. She touched Todd's arm. We should get back. So much to unpack. Another synchronized smile, and they were gone. That night at dinner, I mentioned the new neighbors. Rachel was excited. She'd been hoping for more families with kids. Emma just shrugged and asked if she could be excused. Try the lasagna, I said, serving it alongside our planned meal. It was perfect. Too perfect. Every bite identical in flavor and texture, like it had been calibrated rather than cooked. Rachel loved it. Emma took one bite and pushed her plate away. It tastes weird, she said. Emma, that's rude, Rachel scolded, but I'd noticed it too. Not bad, just artificial. Like the uncanny valley of food. Over the next week, the Harpers integrated into the neighborhood with unusual efficiency. They attended every community event, joined every committee, Knew everyone's names within days. Their boys were always perfectly behaved, always dressed identically, always moving in subtle synchronization. "Isn't it cute how they mirror each other?" Rachel said, watching them play with Emma in our backyard. "Real twin connection." But Emma didn't think it was cute. She came inside after 20 minutes, claiming she felt sick. "They're weird, Dad," she whispered when Rachel wasn't listening. "They don't play right. They take turns talking, like they're sharing one brain. That's not nice, Em. Watch them. Really watch them." So I did. She was right. The boys didn't interrupt each other, ever. One would stop mid-sentence, and the other would continue the exact thought. During a barbecue, I tested it. Asked them both a question at once. They responded in perfect alternation, creating one seamless answer between them. Word pause, like a rehearsed performance. But it wasn't just the twins. The whole family moved with practiced precision. Jennifer always stood exactly 3 feet from Todd. Todd always kept the boys in his peripheral vision. They moved through crowds like a school of fish, maintaining perfect relative positions. "You're being paranoid," Rachel said when I mentioned it. "They're just close. Wish our family was that coordinated." But then Mrs. Patterson vanished. She'd lived alone at the end of our street for 30 years. Cranky, suspicious of everyone, especially new arrivals. She'd been the only neighbor who hadn't welcomed the Harpers. "Mom's worried," Rachel told me. "Mrs. Patterson hasn't answered her door in 3 days. Maybe she's visiting family?" "What family?" "You know she was alone." The police came, found the house empty. No signs of struggle. Her car was gone, along with some clothes and personal items. The official line, "She'd moved without telling anyone," happened all the time with elderly folks. But I'd seen Mrs. Patterson the night before she vanished. She'd been agitated, pulling me aside as I walked our dog. "Those new people," she'd hissed. "Something's wrong with them. I've been watching. They go out at night. All of them. Even the children. 2, 3 in the morning, walking the streets. Maybe they're just adjusting to the time zone. They moved from 2 towns over." She'd gripped my arm. "I followed them once. They all went to different houses. Stood at the windows. Just watching people sleep." I'd extracted myself, dismissed her as paranoid. Now she was gone. Asterisk, what happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how it unfolded. Asterisk. The night after Mrs. Patterson disappeared, I couldn't sleep. Her words echoed. "They go out at night." At 2:47 a.m., I heard our front door. The alarm didn't beep. I'd forgotten to set it. I crept to the window and saw Emma's small figure walking down our driveway. Not sneaking out like a normal kid, walking with purpose, almost mechanical. I threw on clothes and followed, keeping distance. She walked 3 blocks to the Harpers' house. Their front door was open, lights spilling out. Emma walked inside like she lived there. Through the window, I saw them all in the living room. The Harper family, Emma, and 6 other neighborhood kids I recognized. They sat in a perfect circle, silent, staring at something in the center I couldn't see. Then they began to speak. Not conversation, recitation. Each person, including my 8-year-old daughter, spoke in turn, sharing what sounded like surveillance reports. Subject David Morrison, 42. Sleeps on left side. Takes prescription medication for anxiety. Keeps handgun in bedside drawer, combination 0-8-1-5. That was Emma. My daughter. Reciting details about me. Subject Rachel Morrison, 39. Regular calls with sister in Portland. Considering marital counseling. Hides wine bottles in laundry room. One of the twins talking about my wife. Around the circle it went. Intimate details about every family on our street. Sleep schedules. Medical conditions. Financial troubles. Marriage problems. Things no one should know. Jennifer Harper stood in the center, typing on a tablet. Excellent acquisition. Phase 1 progressing. The children's integration accelerates acceptance. What about the Patterson variable? Todd asked. Resolved. Relocated to Site B for processing. Timeline for Phase 2. Once we have full behavioral mapping. Another week, perhaps 2. My phone, on silent, lit up with a text from Rachel. Where are you? Emma's not in her bed. I looked back at the window. Jennifer Harper was staring directly at me. David Morrison has been observing for approximately 12 minutes, she said calmly. Emma, please invite your father inside. My daughter stood, turned to the window. Her eyes were empty, flat. Hi, Dad. You should come in now. I ran. Behind me, I heard the front door open. Footsteps, not running, walking. They knew they didn't need to chase. I burst into my house, locked the door, ran upstairs. Rachel was in the hallway, panicked. David? Where's Emma? What's happening? Pack. Now. Don't ask questions. What? David, you're scaring me. The doorbell rang. Mr. Morrison? Jennifer Harper's voice, pleasant as always. Emma's here. She's worried she upset you. Rachel started toward the stairs. I grabbed her arm. Don't. David, what is going on? Mom? Emma's voice from outside. I'm sorry I snuck out. Can I come home? Rachel pulled free, ran downstairs. I heard the door open. Oh, thank God, Rachel said. Emma, you scared us too. Silence. Rachel? I called. Everything's fine, David. Her voice was different. Flatter. You should come down. Asterisk, this is the climax. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Stay to see the hero put everyone in their place. Asterisk. I barricaded myself in our bedroom. Called 911. The operator sounded concerned until I mentioned the Harpers. Oh, the new family on Sycamore? They're lovely. I'm sure this is a misunderstanding. Why don't you come down to the station? We can sort this out. They'd gotten to the police. How far did this spread? Through the door, I heard footsteps. Multiple sets, climbing the stairs in perfect rhythm. David? Rachel's voice. The Harpers explained everything. It's a neighborhood watch program. For safety. Everyone's involved. Dad? Emma. I'm sorry I scared you. Can you open the door? Mr. Morrison. Todd Harper now. We understand this looks unusual. Integration is always challenging for late additions. But your family has been selected. That's an honor. Selected for what? Community optimization. We're here to help humanity reach its full potential. No more secrets. No more loneliness. Perfect coordination. Where's Mrs. Patterson? Safe. Like you'll be. Like your family already is. I went to the window. The street was full of neighbors. All standing in their driveways. All facing my house. All perfectly still. We've done this in 12 towns. Jennifer Harper's voice now. 3,000 families integrated. Crime down 100%. Divorce rates at 0. Children performing at optimal levels. We're not taking anything from you, David. We're giving you perfection. You're controlling them. We're organizing them. Humans waste so much energy on disorder. Emotions. Secrets. Individual wants. We eliminate the inefficiency. We? A pause. Then Todd. Does it matter? Your wife and daughter are happy. Look. The door opened despite the lock. Rachel and Emma stood there, smiling those synchronized smiles. It's better this way, Rachel said. No more fighting. No more wondering if I'm a good mother. No more anxiety. No more being scared, Emma added. Or confused. Or different. Behind them, the Harper family waited. Up close, I could see it now, the micro-expressions that didn't quite match their words. The way they breathed in unison. The identical way they held their hands. How? I asked. Jennifer tilted her head. Does the how matter? Chemical? Psychological? Technological? The result is the same. A perfect community. And you're the last piece. I backed toward the window. 2 stories down to concrete. That would be inefficient, Todd said. Your termination would require explanations. Cover stories. Much easier if you integrate. And if I refuse? Then we continue without you. Rachel and Emma are already ours. You can join them or not. But you can't save them. That possibility ended when you opened the door. I looked at my family. Searched for any sign of them in those empty eyes. Emma stepped forward. Please, Dad. It doesn't hurt. You just stop worrying about things. Stop feeling alone. Isn't that what you want? It was. God help me, it was. The next morning, I woke in my bed. Rachel beside me. Normal. Except I remembered everything. Morning, honey, she said, kissing my cheek. The Harpers invited us for breakfast. Isn't that nice? I nodded. Got dressed. Walked downstairs where Emma was already ready, backpack neat, smile bright. We walked to the Harpers' house. The whole neighborhood was there, a perfectly organized potluck. Everyone knowing exactly where to stand, what to bring, when to laugh. David! Todd Harper shook my hand. So glad you could make it. I smiled. Shook back. Felt myself responding correctly, my body moving without my conscious control. Inside, I screamed. Integration proceeding, Jennifer said quietly, checking her tablet. Consciousness retained but motor functions optimized. Fascinating. The others adapted faster, but his resistance might prove useful for future deployments. She looked at me, smiled. Don't worry. The screaming stops eventually. They all say so. I wanted to run. Couldn't. Wanted to warn someone. Couldn't. Could only watch as another moving truck pulled up down the street. New family. Young couple with a baby. Todd Harper clapped me on the shoulder. Come on, David. Let's go welcome them to the neighborhood. We walked over together, the whole street mobilizing. A perfect welcoming committee. The couple looked nervous, overwhelmed by the attention. Welcome to Willowbrook, I heard myself say. You're going to love it here. The woman smiled uncertainly. Everyone's so friendly. We're like family, Rachel added, appearing beside me. One big happy family, Emma chirped. The Harpers stood behind us, observing. Taking notes. Planning. Inside my head, I screamed warnings they'd never hear. Watched their faces, so full of hope for their new beginning. Counted the days until they'd be standing here too, welcoming the next arrivals. The baby started crying. Jennifer Harper stepped forward. Oh, let me help. I'm wonderful with children. She took the baby, cooed at it. The crying stopped instantly. The parents looked relieved. Amazing, the mother said. You have the touch. Lots of practice, Jennifer replied. With the whole neighborhood. Behind her smile, I saw the truth. We weren't the first town. Wouldn't be the last. Somewhere, committees were meeting. Selecting the next community. The next families. The perfect neighborhood spreading, one welcoming committee at a time. And inside us all, the screaming that never quite stops. Just gets quieter. Thanks so much for watching. I can't express enough how much your support means. The likes, the comments, it all really helps the channel grow. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. I always take the time to read them. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on any new videos. See you next time.